I want to give a very quick talk, and this is really just food for thought on how to prevent DOS attacks, denial of service attacks. I'll phrase this as the do's and don'ts. I'm raising awareness for the topic. I'm not going to give you a solution to this. All right, DOS, what is it? Denial of service attack. Denial of service attack, the idea is, as an attacker, I want to attack someone for that target to no longer be able to serve in the purpose it was initially put up for. Defending against denial of service attacks is super hard. If you go on scholar.google.com, or if you just read the gossips of paper or any of those papers out there, like it's super hard. Right? And this is especially very hard in the peer-to-peer world, as identities are cheap. Right? An attacker can do a DDoS, so targeting from multiple angles, and then in addition, they can generate as many identities as they want, and it's very hard to prevent that. And in addition, many times peer-to-peer is actually happening not on very beefy systems where you control everything and you can throw a lot of money against the hardware, but much rather smaller servers or even cell phones or laptops and so on. Denial of service attacks, I would say the number one way to do this is to attack or to exhaust a scarce resource. Now, the idea of unbounded CPU, the idea of unbounded memory, and the idea of, for example, unbounded file descriptors, that's all a lie, right? We need to somehow prevent, those resources to be exhausted. I think that's quite obvious to everyone. Cool. Okay, so this is obviously relevant in general, this is relevant in the peer-to-peer world, and this is also especially relevant in lib2p. And with this talk, I just want to raise awareness for this and make you all, as both users and implementers, keep an eye out for this. All right, the do's. One single easy rule. It's the solution to everything, I guess. Bound everything, right? No, you don't have unbounded memory. No, you don't have unbounded amount of sockets. No, right? Bound everything. Everything that is unbounded is an attack vector. Now, obviously, you can. This sounds dogmatic, right? This is not possible, and for example, Rust lib2p, which I'm mostly working on, definitely doesn't live up to that. But let's strive for it, right? There are two ways on, once we bounded everything, let's say, what we can do once we exceed a bound. Right? Once there is an item that exceeds a bound, for example, on the number of items you can put in a channel, the size of a message, the amount of buffering you want to do, and so on. One way is drop the item, right? If there's a message coming in and I currently can't handle it, drop it. That's not good for various reasons. And then the other one is enforce pressure. So the idea of if the consumer cannot handle the item right at the moment, don't read from the producer and thus slow down the producer. Actually, I have a whole slide on that. Back pressure. The idea is you always have a producer and a consumer. You can basically boil down every computation into those two. You want the consumer, in case it's slow, to slow down the producer. The nice side effects is that can improve resource utilization. I'm saying can, right? Quite often batching is a good idea. And this also can improve latency as you keep buffers small. As a nice side effect. But this is really on DOS prevention here. Cool. Okay, so I have a couple of don'ts slides. And again, there's not, obviously we want to bound everything, but that's quite hard. So I have a couple of slides on code examples, and I would like you all to figure out what the problem with that is. This is hard to read, easy to read, okay to read? Okay to read? Yeah? Otherwise, come forward, I can't make this bigger. Okay, all right, I'll walk you through it. we do networking here, right? This could be in libdb, but this could also be using libdb, building your own protocol on top of libdb. We have some bytes that represent the message length prefix. We do UVI encoding, unsigned variant integer. It's just a message length. Then we allocate a buffer for the length, and then we read the message into the buffer. All right, go for it.
I'm not going to actually send the message length.
You're not going to send me the message length.
No. So I lie about the size of my message.
Yeah.
And then I only send you n-1 bytes, so you're stuck waiting for the n byte.
Yeah, very cool. OK. So now I have a coroutine or a Rust task or a thread just hanging there, never reading anything. So we need a time bound on this. What else can I do here as an attacker?
I'm going to send you a many terabyte long message, or usize max.
You're going to send me that message?
I'll pipe dev you random.
OK. So you can do even better than sending me a very large message. How can you do even better? This might require some Rust knowledge for the other non-Rust folks, I'm sorry. All right, in case no one knows, I'll give Elena this chance, but Elena knows all the solutions already, I think. All right, Tanguy. Yeah.
I tell you that I will send 1 terabyte, but don't send the terabyte.
Yeah, and then I'll allocate, and the operating system hopefully will kill me, or stop. OK, no rocket science, right? No rocket science. I just want to plant this into your brains, right? Whenever you code, watch out for these things. Cool. All right, next one. This is my Go skills. It's probably something bad here. I think we don't do semicolons. We have a for loop. We receive a request from a channel, right? And then we spawn a Go routine handling that channel. Any issues with this?
If you get a bunch of incoming requests at the same time, there's no limit on how many Go routines you're going to end up with. And it's not going to be good.
Very good. Cool. Again, no rocket science, right? But yeah, we've all seen this. So Go channels, first off, awesome. They have back pressure, right? They have a limit. They are bounded. Wonderful. And if you read from them and then spawn a Go routine, you just broke back pressure across your system, right? Because maybe Go routines are cheap, but maybe me as an attacker, I can send requests faster than you can handle them. So eventually, you'll run out of memory. Yeah? OK, cool. Same game in Rust. Rust does have unbounded channels, so that's even more fun, but we'll not have them here. We read a request from a channel, right? And then we spawn a task. But this also applies if we spawn a thread, right? Or we spawn something to a remote node. Like, it's all the same, right? We break back pressure, and that will eventually be an attack vector. OK, cool. Any comments to this one? Again, quite obvious. The unbounded channel. So I want to plant something, especially into Rust engineers here. If you use an unbounded channel, you need to somehow externally have a mechanism to bound what's happening in that channel, right? Or you run a small CLI tool that no one cares about in terms of back pressure. Fine, use an unbounded channel, but in all other cases, you probably don't want this. Cool? On Go, yeah, you have bounded channels. Really cool. I don't know, in the JS ecosystem, channels, are they bounded by default? OK, so I'll explain this one. We have a vector of requests we want to handle later on, right? We can't handle them right now. We have a vector. We have an incoming request, again, coming from a channel. And then we push the request into the vector. I'll not put this up as a quiz. Like, I think it's obvious, right? An unbounded channel is the same like an unbounded vector or anything. You need something that watches out that that vector, vector, array, collection, whatever language you use, is not running out of bounds, right? OK. Cool. I think those are all my examples. not very sophisticated. Yeah, I hope I planted that thought into your brains. The next time you program in general, the next time you program on anything libp2p related or on top of libp2p. And yeah, at some point I'll get a tattoo which will say back pressure, but until then, please do back pressure. It's super important. Cool, thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Is this thing on? Okay.
Yeah.
So for Rust libp2p, does it do all these things correctly, or is it? Are there still some things to be solved there?
Mm-hmm. So I say bound everything. Cool. Rust libp2p doesn't. Like, we don't bound everything. I think we're decent in many, many places, and I think we got a lot better. I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
So CDN providers have tools for statistically detecting DDoS attacks. And I'm wondering if there's been any infrastructure developed for live P2P nodes that allow them the similar level of functionality, maybe not as powerful, but something that allows them to preemptively reject certain requests before processing them?
Yeah, I think the closest we get to this is the gossip subpaper with the many parameters and scoring functions and so on. You could get rid of the idea of this. You could prevent the Sybil attack through some kind of proof of work mechanism or putting it on some chain, right? Yeah, it's not ideal. I would love to have the solution. Yeah.
You can use fail to ban with libp2p.
This is actually a good point. So I'll mention this right now. On our docs page, docs.libp2p.io, we have a bigger section on, in general, DOS prevention, and there are a bunch of mechanisms. Again, no silver bullet, like it's just engineering work. And then, for example, on Rust-specific things, we have, on Rust libp2p, we have a coding guideline on like how we think we can best enforce back pressure throughout a Rust code base. This is very opinionated. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not saying this is the silver bullet nor the solution to everything, but yeah, a step forward in my eyes.
Getting back to the Rust spawning a task, yeah, the Rust version, I don't know about Go, but if this couldn't back pressure be implemented in a schedule so that you have a finite amount of threads, whereas if you have all them busy, you don't spawn another, and you make it so that the scheduler doesn't pick and launches another task.
Yeah, I think that would be, that would be perfect. So around here you have some if, whether the amount of tasks you spawned exceeded, and only then. Sorry?
Inside the scheduler.
Inside the scheduler.
So that
you could do that, but the scheduler doesn't know the scale of your system. Like, okay, tasks are cheap, right? Mm-hmm. Not full stack frames, right? That's fine, cool. But maybe I'm moving, each time I'm moving a 1 GB buffer into there. So does the scheduler know whether it can spawn 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 tasks? It doesn't know, right? So it doesn't know the scale of how much memory I'm moving into the task. This is not only about memory, right? This is also about CPU. Like, if I can keep your CPU busy while you're not serving any other inbound connections or outbound connections, the remote peer will terminate those connections, right? So many attack vectors here.
Yeah, I think the lesson here is you don't want to be isomorphic to handlers to requests. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know what isomorphic in this context.
One-to-one. You don't want to spawn a new task per request.
Yeah. So for example, in Rust libp2p, what we do is we spawn one task per connection, but the amount of connections is limited. You can limit the amount of inbound and outbound connections. But we don't spawn tasks per stream, for example. Yeah.
Sometimes in DOS protection, you have this concept of kind of enforcing diversity. For instance, in terms of IPs, you don't want to have too many requests in the buffer from the same IP or from IPs that are too similar. Do you have this kind of protections, or?
Yeah, for example, in Gossip Sub, I think one of the parameters is either autonomous system numbers or IPs that need to be diverse. But then this is a step forward, right? But it shouldn't be the only measure as we have. Like, once we're in the IPv6 space, yeah, you get the /64. So, yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you. Please do back pressure.